Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivanadari Gopichana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Gopijana Vallabha Girivanadari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pavirajikacharya Astota Satashi Srimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki. ISKCON founder BBT founder Charya Srila Prabhupada ki. Jai Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Pavirajikacharya Astota Satashi Srimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur Goswami Maharaja ki. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki. Premsako Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gop Gopinath Shamakun Radhakun Giri Govardhan ki. Shri Navadvip Marpurdam ki. Shri Mathura Vrindavan Dhamma ki. Ganga Mai ki. Yamuna Mai ki. Bhakti Devi ki. Tulasi Devi ki. Shamaveta Bhakta Vrinda ki. Nitai Gaura Premanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. So today we're going to be reading from the 4th canto, chapter 11, entitled Swayambhavu Manu Advises Dhruva Maharaj, and we'll be reading text 8, 9, and 10. So I'll read text 8 and 9, and then we'll do 10 together. So text 8. Nasmat kula chitam tata kanmaitat sadvigarhitam vadoyat upadevanam arabdeste kritainasham. Translation. My dear son, the killing of the sinless yakshas, which you have undertaken, is not at all approved by authorities, and it does not befit our family, which is supposed to know the laws of religion and irreligion. Text 9. Nanekasya paradena prasangat bahavohata bratuvada bitaptena vayanga bratvatsala. Translation. My dear son, it has been proved that you are very much affectionate towards your brother and are greatly aggrieved at his being killed by the yakshas. But just consider, for one yaksha's offense, you have killed many others who are innocent. Okay, so text 10 we can do together. Nayam Margo Hi Sadunam Rishikesha Anuvartinam Yad Atmanam Parag Kriya Pashuvad Bhuta Vaishasam Nayam Margo Hi Sadunam Rishikeshanuvartinam Yat atmanam paragriya pasuvadbhuta vaishasam Nayam margo hi sadhunam Rishikeshanuvartinam Yadatmanam paragriya Pashuvadbhuta vaishasam. Prabhus? Nayamadgo hi sadhunam Rishikeshanuvartinam Dhammadvati paragriya Asuvadbhuta vaishasam Nayanamago hi sadhunam Rishikeshanuvartinam Yadatmanam paragriya Asuvadbhuta vaishasam Nayamargo hi sadhunam Rishikeshanuvartinam Yad atmanam paragriya Ashuvadbhuta vaishasam. Ladies? Nayamargo hi sadhunam Rishikeshanuvartinam Yadatmanam paragriya Chupasa vishaisasam Nayamargo hi sadhunam Rishikeshanuvartinam Yadatmanam paragriya Ashuvadbhuta vaishasam Nayamadgo hi sadhunam Rishikeshanuvartinam Yad atmanam paragriya Ashuvadbhuta vaishasam. Na, never. Ayam, this. Marga, path. He, certainly. Sadhunam, of honest persons. Rishikesha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Anuvartinam, following the path. Yat, which. Atmanam, self. Parak, the body. Kriya, thinking to be. Pashuvat, like animals. Bhuta, of living entities. Vaishasam, killing. Translation. One should not accept the body as the self, and thus, like the animals, kill the bodies of others. This is especially forbidden by saintly persons who follow the path of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The words Sadhunam Rishikeshanuvartinam are very significant. Sadhu means a saintly person. But who is a saintly person? A saintly person is he who follows the path of rendering service unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Rishikesha. In the Narada Pancharatra, it is said, Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchyate. The The process of rendering favorable service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead with one's senses is called bhakti, or devotional service. Therefore, why should a person who is already engaged in the service of the Lord engage himself in personal sense gratification? Dhruva Maharaj is advised here by Lord Manu that he is a pure servitor of the Lord. Why should he unnecessarily engage, like the animals, in the bodily concept of life? An animal thinks that the body of another animal is his food. Therefore, in the bodily concept of life, one animal attacks another. A human being, especially one who is a devotee of the Lord, should not act like this. A sadhu, a saintly devotee, is not supposed to kill animals unnecessarily. Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamaya Dadati Svam Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Ragunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvetam Savudutam Parijana Shihitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Banu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kantarada Kantanamustute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpadrubhisha Kripa Sinjabi Vacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So Hare Krishna. So there are two parts to this verse, the last verse that I would like to discuss. The first being not accepting the body as the self, and the second part being what is a sadhu, or what are the qualities of a saintly person. So Swayambhavu Manu is first citing this philosophy of not accepting the body as the self, and to not be like an animal who just kills the bodies of others. He states this for Dhruva Maharaj to stop killing the yakshas, whereas we see with Krishna and Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra that Krishna is citing this philosophy so Arjuna could kill. So it's an interesting comparison there. So then what does this mean? We can see that what is important is what the soul should and what the soul shouldn't be doing. Sometimes killing the body is what the soul should be doing in the case of Arjuna. But in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, it was not sanctioned by the Lord. So therefore Swayambhavu Manu was concerned, and he didn't want Dhruva Maharaj to accumulate any more sin. This is the Vedic culture. It's not a speculative culture, but in the Shastra there are laws. There's laws of Dharma for all living entities, whether tamasic, rajasic, or sattvic, and also for the devotees. So life cannot exist without these laws, and every living entity with a body has the right to live. And the Lord is also pleased when we follow His laws, and that's how we can be happy and peaceful. So our consciousness of just acting whimsically and according to our own laws, our own rules and desires, we must try move away from this, because it's in the lower modes of passion and ignorance. And eventually we get to the platform of acting solely for the pleasure of the Lord. So Srila Prabhupada, in this purport, he quotes Rishikena Rishikesha Sevanam Bhakti Uchyate. So the full verse from the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Lila, chapter 19, verse 170. Sarvopari vinemuktam tat paradvena nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti uchyate. Bhakti, or devotional service, means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and one's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Lord. So our bodies are not actually our own bodies, but they are for us to use. We have a choice. We can use it for sense gratification, or we can directly serve the Lord through bhakti yoga or devotional service. And Krishna is the master of all the bodies, so constitutionally we must act in order to please him. And Krishna is also so kind that he is in the hearts of all living entities, not for his own benefits or for his own pleasure, but for us, because we are actually completely helpless in everything. So Krishna also acts as the permitter. So we can't think that material nature is our servant, but actually material nature is the servant of Krishna. So therefore material nature listens to Krishna, not our desires and what we want. But unfortunately our illusion is that we think that material nature is taking our orders according to our desires. But also all of our desires, material, spiritual, have to be permitted and sanctioned by the Lord. Sometimes we see, well, I know I do, we see other people, why are they getting all of their desires fulfilled and why not me? But we also need to just have that implicit faith that Krishna is our evermost well-wisher, and he knows what is best for us more than we know. So Krishna's very purpose of his existence is Anandamaya Vyasat, and for everyone to engage in his all-inclusive love and pleasure. So to please the Lord is to actually include everyone in his devotional service. But for conditioned souls, our purpose is usually self-centered. But Krishna is completely selfless, and he wants everyone to go back home. And also Krishna, him and his body are identical, but with us there is a difference. So we need to come to that understanding that we are not the body, but we must use the body for the Krishna service. The body is actually, it's neutral, but the living entity, we want to use it for sense gratification. And this so-called pleasure that we get in the material world is only possible by the sanction of the Lord, because we cannot actually get pleasure out of matter. Matter does not contain ananda, but because of our own mental concoction, we feel pleasure and pain. So Krishna says in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Shri Radharanath ki, Shri Giri Govardhan ki, Shri Gaura Hariya ki, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So Krishna says in the second chapter of Bhagavad Gita, O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress, and their disappearance in due course, are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, O sign of Bharat, and one must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. So it is due to sense perception that we feel pleasure and pain. So we can ask ourselves the question, what is so wrong with this illusory pleasure that we experience in the material world? And what's wrong about it is, it's because what we think is pleasure is not actually pleasure. We can even compare it to fake money or fake currency. It doesn't actually have the value that we think it does, and we can't actually gain anything from it. So we should rather just act in a way that can please Rishikesha and engage in devotional service. And we're also so fortunate that we have Srila Prabhupada, who created this ISKCON for us. So we actually all have the opportunity all the time to engage in devotional service. And there are so many things that we can do, and not only us in the temple, but even people living outside. There are so many opportunities for devotional service, so many opportunities for us to engage in Rishikesha service. Because when we are trying to please our own senses in the material world, it's actually just an illusion of happiness, which we create in our own mind. Our false ego, our false sense of identity and self is also just created in the mind. So illusion is not actually outside, illusion is within. It's created by our own mind. But our body is not an illusion. We're not Mayavadis that think everything in this material world is illusion. The body is not an illusion, but we are misusing it. And sin actually means to misuse the body, or to use it for a purpose that it's not meant for. So from misusing the body for indulging in sense gratification and sinful activities, we get a lower animal birth in the next life. But devotees engaged in Rishikesha Sevanam are actually spared from this. So Srila Prabhupada, he talks about how the devotee is always acting under the permission of the super soul. But this platform, it requires cleansing of the heart. And the Lord is actually, he's waiting for us to guide us and infuse us with inspiration, intelligence, and realization of transcendental knowledge. He's waiting for us as the Chaita Guru in the heart. And Bhakti yogis actually have a constant connection with the Paramatma in order to advance in bhakti, to be able to learn more about Krishna. So the Bhakti yogi can take direction from the Paramatma to serve Krishna. And also we're very, very fortunate because we also have the spiritual master that functions as the super soul. And with the mercy of our spiritual masters, we can do more service that will please Rishikesha. So we can say that Krishna consciousness, this whole process of Krishna consciousness, includes remembering Rishikesh in the body. So we don't always have to think that God is so far away, but he's within. And when we pay our obeisances to the spiritual master, to Srila Prabhupada, to the deities, it means going in front of them and saying, this body is yours. I will use it according to your permission and guidance. My body, my mind, my words, my very self is at your service. So let's hope we can be that surrendered all the time. And when we practice Bhakti Yoga, we are under the direct guidance of the Lord. But when we're not practicing devotional service, we are under constant sway of the material modes of nature. So being under this guidance of the Lord, it can only be achieved if we take to the process of devotional service and by chanting the holy name, which cleanses the dirt from the heart. And this dirt is ignorance, which we can cleanse by knowledge. And this knowledge is so easily available here. We have so much of Srila Prabhupada's teachings, so many books. We just need to take advantage of that. So therefore we must read Srila Prabhupada's books as much as possible, every day if we can, so we can also understand, what we are doing. Why are we doing devotional service? We don't want to just be doing service mechanically, but to actually know the real reason why we're doing it. And also to constantly remind ourselves of the potency and the importance of the holy name. Like I know for me, I need to always constantly read, that the holy name is one and the same as Krishna, and why we are chanting and all the amazing potencies of the holy name, because we forget, and that's how we become mechanical in our chanting, because we don't actually think, why am I doing this? We think, okay, I have to reach a quota of 16 rounds, but it's so much more than that. So we see so many people as devotees before and now, there's such a huge transformation of the heart and the consciousness. Like I just think of myself and the activities I used to be doing before coming to the temple and Krishna consciousness and what I'm doing now, and it's a vast difference. So this transformation of the heart and the consciousness, it comes only from the potency of the holy name. And the only way we can follow these strict 4 regulative principles is by the mercy of the holy name. Otherwise, how would we be following such strict, austere principles when the rest of the world is definitely not following them? And this illicit sex, gambling, intoxication, meat eating, They are the four main abusers of the body. And when we engage in these kinds of activities, it becomes difficult to perceive Rishikesh and get the orders or inspiration from him, from the Lord in our heart. So the body is actually very valuable. We can use it for the service of Krishna. But if we use it to indulge in sinful activities, or we use it to hurt the bodies of others, we are actually just simply hurting the self or our own soul. So bhakti means engaging the body in the service of the Lord. So that was the one part of the verse I wanted to talk about, and then the next part talking about the qualities and what is a sadhu. So Swayambhavu Manu, he also preaches to Dhruva Maharaj that although he's a Kshatriya, he's also a sadhu and a devotee. So a key question for all of us is to think, what is a sadhu? Who is a sadhu or a saintly person? And luckily we are fortunate enough that we have come in contact with the teachings of Srila Prabhupada, the most saintliest of people. And but now it's our turn to try become sadhus ourselves. And service to these great sadhus like Srila Prabhupada and the spiritual masters, and to the great devotees. So service to these sadhus or saintly people it opens the door to liberation and to the spiritual world. So in the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, chapter 25, verse 21, Lord Kapila Dev, he instructs his mother on the qualities of a sadhu. So I'm going to read that for us. Titikshava karunika surida sarvadehinam ajata sastrava santa sarava sadhu bhushana. The symptoms of a sadhu are that he is tolerant, merciful, and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies. He is peaceful. He abides by the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime. So I want to read a bit of the purport. A sadhu, as described above, is a devotee of the Lord. His concern, therefore, is to enlighten people in devotional service to the Lord. That is his mercy. He knows that without devotional service to the Lord, human life is spoiled. A devotee travels all over the country, from door to door, preaching, "Be Krishna conscious, be a devotee of Lord Krishna. Don't spoil your life in simply fulfilling your animal propensities. Human life is meant for self-realization or Krishna consciousness." So these are the preachings of a sadhu. He is not satisfied with his own liberation. He always thinks about others. He is the most compassionate personality towards all the fallen souls. Therefore, one of his qualifications is karunika, great mercy to the fallen souls. While engaged in preaching work, he has to meet with so many opposing elements, and therefore the sadhu, or devotee of the Lord, has to be very tolerant. Someone may ill-treat him because the conditioned souls are not prepared to receive the transcendental knowledge of devotional service. They do not like it. That is their disease. The sadhu has the thankless task of impressing upon them the importance of devotional service. Sometimes devotees are personally attacked with violence. Lord Jesus Christ was crucified. Haridas Thakur was caned in 22 marketplaces. And Lord Chaitanya's principal assistant, Nityananda, was violently attacked by Jagan Madai. But still they were tolerant because their mission was to deliver the fallen souls. One of the qualifications of a sadhu is that he's very tolerant and is merciful to all fallen souls. He is merciful because he is the well-wisher of all living entities. He's not only a well-wisher of human society, but a well-wisher of animal society as well. It is said here, sarvadehinam, which indicates all living entities who have accepted material bodies. Not only does the human being have a material body, but other living entities, such as cats and dogs, also have material bodies. The devotee of the Lord is merciful to everyone, the cats, dogs, trees, etc. he treats all living entities in such a way that they can ultimately get salvation from this material entanglement. So I thought that was a really nice verse and purport about what is a sadhu. So we can also see the example of Mrigari, who was a hunter, and he was a really cruel hunter. He wouldn't even just kill the animals, he would like half kill them, and then they would lie and suffer. And then Narada Muni, he saw this, and he felt such compassion to these animals. So he preached to this hunter, and through his powerful preaching, this hunter was completely transformed and even became so compassionate that when he would pay obeisances, he was even conscious of not hurting or killing the ants while he was like bowing down. And then we even see with Haridas Thakur, he would always preach to chant loudly so that even the insects and the plants could benefit. So that is a sadhu. He wants to help every living entity. And I like that, you know, when we're chanting around the moat or chanting around anywhere and you're chanting loudly, then the fish, well, we hope the fish can hear. We don't know. The trees, the plants, the insects, everyone is getting benefited from the chanting. But sometimes I think like, oh, you know, my chanting is not very pure. I don't think they're getting benefits. But it's got actually nothing to do with us. The holy name is always pure, no matter what. So the association of these sadhus and the service to them, it awakens and develops faith and bhakti within us. And also our hearts become purified and they soften. So we also become more aware of the sufferings of others, even though sometimes people externally look happy. And we see this all the time on Sankirtan. I was telling Ganga this the other day. Everyone that I come across doing like book distribution, they're like, no, I'm so happy. Everything is great. I never feel stress. I'm just like having the best time of my life. And, you know, people, they very convincingly look happy. Sometimes I'm like, oh my God, they're happier than I am. What's going on? Anyway, but actually, the devotee should know the dangerous position of people that are not engaged in devotional service, no matter how happy they do look externally. And when we actually develop this quality of compassion that these sadhus have, that's when we can really start giving out mercy. And also, the devotee doesn't just want liberation for himself. He wants it for everyone. We see this with the example of Prahlad Maharaj, who was actually in such anxiety for all the people who had forgotten the Lord. He laments for their suffering. And he also wanted to save his own father, who, you know, multiple times tried to kill him. And that is also the mood that we see with Srila Prabhupada. You know, he could have just stayed in Vrindavan, chanted, and, you know, been happy and peaceful and gone back home to Godhead, and life is great. But Srila Prabhupada, he didn't want to give up the association of, you know, people that had taken to sinful and materialistic life. He rather wanted to see that they took to devotional service. So that liberation wasn't just for himself, he wanted to share it. So that is the real sadhu. Titikshava, tolerant, karunika, merciful, surida dehinam, friendly to all living entities, humans and animals, everyone. So also by preaching, when we go out in book distribution or preaching in any sense of the word, we also giving the association of the saintly people like Srila Prabhupada. So when we are preaching, we're preaching from the teachings from Srila Prabhupada's books and the Guru Parampara. So we are giving the association of these saintly people to others as well. But it's also time for us to become the sadhus. So these qualities of mercy, tolerance, and compassion are very attractive, and they also attract people. We were talking the other day as well, like one of our students from BYS, you know, we had asked them when they came to visit the temple, like, what are your thoughts of the temple? What are your thoughts about chanting Hare Krishna? And he was like, I don't really know much about that, but I really like the people that are here. So that's what drew him, was the kindness, the compassion, the friendliness of, the people there, not so much anything else actually. So these kinds of qualities of a sadhu becomes attractive, and it will also bring people towards Krishna consciousness, because they'll see, wow, they're happy and peaceful and compassionate. I also want to be like that. Or wow, these people, what are they taking? So this is very important during book distribution and any kind of preaching work. The degree to which we can have these saintly qualities is the degree to which we can actually attract other people to this movement. So it's something for us all to think about. Not only do we preach by sharing transcendental knowledge, but one of the main forms of preaching is just by example. People seeing the qualities of you as a person. A lot of the time on book distribution, we get some people that are a bit maybe aggressive or antagonistic, and we must just always stay calm and peaceful, respectful and friendly, and they will really respect that instead of getting frustrated or angry. Yeah, so thank you for listening. I want to hear if anyone else would like to add anything or share anything.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Madhurya, first time I heard you speak. But it was so nice, it was so wonderful. I think I made some points. But firstly, I want to compliment is like a very mature analysis, the qualities of a devotee and devotee's position in service. And I also notice you have a very deep appreciation of Srila Prabhupada, which your conviction came through in your presentation.
Thank you.
I like the point that you said about that we have several opportunities for service by the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. And that what we were like before and now, we can see the difference even in ourselves due to our involvement in devotional service. I make these points, I take them down because it helps me, and also I can use them to speak in the future. You made the point about the second part. You said that as we practice devotional service, our heart becomes softened. And although we are studying the qualities, I paraphrase, of the sadhus, then it's time for us to become sadhus. I like that, very nice. So you quoted Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, 25, 21, Titikshva Karunika. That was a very powerful verse, Suridam Sarvadenam, for the qualities of a sadhu. And so I want to ask a question. See, I lived in the temple for about 9 years of my life, and then I live outside. So I come now to the temple as often as I can because it's my home, Outside there is not my home. I come here. I feel enlivened. And I take inspiration from many, many other devotees that I've known for a long time here also. And to see the younger devotees like yourselves come and so enthusiastic, it gives us hope for the future of Krishna conscious movement. Sorry for the long preamble. But I also encountered, and personally, I'm sorry to use this example, but in interaction with a devotee, we won't mention any names, when you're engaging in some communication or service, the person gives off a type of vibe that they're very irritated and annoyed with your interaction and trying to inquire and so on. So why is it that some devotees become more grumpy, less enlivened over time in the temple, whereas this should be a process of rectification? Even I know, interaction in the temple itself amongst devotees. Sometimes it's just not all smooth sailing, right? So what's perhaps your analysis about that?
Well, just what came to mind was the first thing is I always try to look from both perspectives. Like maybe why is that person feeling grumpy? Maybe it's got nothing to do with me. Maybe they're having a bad day or something. So I try to not take those kinds of things personally, because we also don't want to feel offended and then they get reactions for you feeling offended. So, sometimes those are kind of opportunities for us to just remain level-headed and to not take it so personally. And then the other thing I was just thinking of as well was that sometimes, like I was talking in the what I was saying earlier, was sometimes we just forget we forget to appreciate and see the value of devotional service. We just think it's like a normal mundane activity, and I'm so busy with so much service that you maybe get a bit grumpy. But actually that's like so blissful, like you're drained from a devotional service. That's so much better than being drained by like material activities, But of course, due to our conditioning, we forget that devotional service is transcendental, it's not normal. So yes, maybe we get into bad moods. I'm just saying this from both sides because I've been on both ends. I've been the one being irritated, and I've been the one saying like, why are they annoyed with me? So I just try to see it from both sides and understand it that way. What do you think?
That's a good response. It's always good to consider the other perspective. But if it's a constant thing, then there needs to be some intervention to assist the devotee who has that mood. Because coming to live in the temple means you sacrifice your independence. You sacrifice your proprietorship. Live in the temple.
Yeah.
But then you cannot hold the management to ransom with your moods. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be able to submit, because besides the super soul, who is represented by the guru, as you pointed out, in the absence of the guru, who is it that's looking after you?
Yeah.
That's the local devotees.
Yeah.
The local management is catering for your development in your spiritual life.
Yeah.
They may not all be pure devotees also, but they're trying also to create a structure. So I was very happy to hear that symptoms of a sadhu, that he is tolerant, merciful and friendly to all living entities. He has no enemies, he's peaceful, he abides with the scriptures, and all his characteristics are sublime.
Yeah.
Checklist.
Checklist, yeah. I was also reading the other day how, Krishna is so impartial to everyone, that eventually when we are not affected by the modes and when we get out of this bodily concept of life, we perceive criticism, praise, honor, dishonor, all is the same. Because Krishna, even the envious demons, he gives liberation to. So when we are out of the bodily concept of life, we will not take criticism. It will all be the same, praise or criticism. But yeah, I guess we can also just pray for everyone.
More than that, when you get criticized, you say thank you.
You don't know the half of it. Yeah.
Thank you, Madhurya.
Thank you, Prabhu. Anyone else? Ganga?
Thanks, Madhurya, Kadambini, for the wonderful class. There were so many points which came up. I was thinking when you were talking about how sometimes we see Krishna fulfills other people's desires but not ours, and then we wonder why, and then we should remember that Krishna knows what is best for us. And I was thinking about an analogy that Srila Prabhupada gave. He said that when a child sees a gun on the television, he thinks, I want a gun. And then obviously the parent can understand that won't be good for the child, so he'll give a toy gun or something like that.
Yeah.
Or he'll give something that's not expected because he knows they shouldn't get that. So for us it's the same. We think this will be so good for us, but it could be to our detriment completely.
Yeah.
And then I was also thinking about the point you made that sometimes when you're in Sankirtan you see people who look so happy and you're thinking, why is my life so difficult? They seem to be fine. My Guru Maharaj explained to me that Krishna is always purifying everybody, but to different extents based on our surrender. So for someone who is not practicing, the laws of karma will be what is purifying them, but it's a slower process for them, so the anarthas don't come up so quickly. But for a devotee who has taken some steps, he purifies them faster, and you can see that in their lives things happen a lot faster. It's not slower, it's more progressive, quicker. And I had a question. How can we see the difference between Krishna putting us into a circumstance because he desires it, or us making a mistake? Because it looks like it could be the same. Like in this case, Dhruva Maharaj could think, well, everything is sanctioned by the Supreme Lord, so me being able to kill all of these people it's allowed by him, so maybe he wants it. But in this case, he can understand that it's not what is actually desired because he's being told that. But in our case, we're not always told this is not what Krishna desires. I mean, with smaller things, or even with bigger things in our lives, it could be Krishna's arrangement, or it could be us making a mistake and Krishna allowing us to do so, and then he will be giving us a reaction for that to rectify us. But how do we see the difference in the first place between those two?
Yeah. I feel like we have discussed this before, and it's that's a difficult one. I guess we just have to have faith that Krishna is the permitter and sanctioner of everything. That, like you said, he wants us to maybe learn from our own mistakes. But I don't know the difference yet either. This is also something I'm trying to figure out. But I guess we just have to also see Krishna's hand in everything. Maybe we don't always see his involvement in everything, but we should just know that it is there. But that's something way beyond my pay grade to know. Maybe Swarup Damodar Prabhu can answer that.
I had a question. If that's okay, then I can comment on some thoughts on the other points that were made. One is in relation to the name Rishikesh. We must give pleasure to Krishna's senses, and that is the definition of devotional service that you quoted from the 19th chapter of the Madhurya Leela. So personally, recently I was asked to do a service that I wasn't looking forward to, and I knew it was going to be this thing, and it was going to be a little difficult, and I resisted it. But one of my spiritual mentors said, no, you should do it. He encouraged you should do it because it will please Krishna. And then I thought, okay, that's true. The spiritual mentors, you're being asked by higher authorities. But if I'm pleasing Krishna's senses, then won't my senses be pleased, including the mind? But throughout that service, my mind and senses weren't pleased. Just didn't happen. So if the equation is that you please Krishna's senses equals my senses and mind being pleased, if my mind is not pleased and my senses, does that mean that Krishna wasn't pleased?
I also had the same question, because Srila Prabhupada also says that, someone asked, if the devotees are pleased and Krishna's pleased, you'll also be happy. But we're not feeling that happiness yet. But I guess it's because we don't really know what real happiness is. And we don't really know what true bliss is. Our senses are still contaminated by the modes. So what we perceive as happiness or unhappiness is just our mental concoction. We don't really know what is real yet in terms of, happiness. So I guess we just have to also have faith that we are making advancement by doing this. And I was just thinking, my Guru Maharaj also mentioned, doing the needful services, doing a difficult, challenging service, and also doing services that inspire us, and trying to do all of these kinds of things. So I guess maybe the service for you was doing the needful or something that was challenging, but then you also have to balance it out with doing inspiring service as well. So that's just my thoughts.
Yeah, that mentor told me, but isn't all service inspiring? How can we suggest that one service is not inspiring and another is inspiring?
Yeah.
And what he mentioned to me is that when we consider something that you don't want to do or you do want to do for Krishna's pleasure, then it's filtered, or we're seeing it through our material body, which includes the mind. The process of devotional service is one of purification, where we're peeling off all those, like the verse says, peeling off all those upadis, all those designations, and all those preferential arrangements to be completely in sync with Krishna. So when we practice devotional service, then all those natures that I need to serve according to my nature, because that nature is based on this body,
Yes.
on this mind. It's not based on your eternal identity
Yes.
as being a pure spirit soul. So sometimes Krishna sanctions, sometimes Krishna arranges that we are put into a situation to peel off a layer
Yes.
of an identity, even though it may seem at that time, because you've peeled skin sometime off a wound. It can be not so nice. It can be really stinging and painful, Or sometimes we get a wound and we want to disinfect the wound, purify the wound, and you put some alcohol on it, and then it stings. So sometimes devotional service, we get the sting in the form of an irritable devotee that we interact with. The sting comes because they have been sort of arranged through material nature, through Krishna's arrangement of material nature, to purify us with the sting sometimes. Of course, having said that, we must be cautious not to just be open to being abused. Because one could say, but I am the vehicle of your stinging purification. So one must be, I'm here to purify you. I've been God sent to purify you. So I think with happiness, what you were mentioning also is a good point, that we don't know what's happiness. So sometimes if I'm engaged in devotional service, in a service that's difficult and not pleasing to me, we're peeling off those layers to uncover what eventual happiness is. And when we've peeled enough layers, having faith and trust in my spiritual mentors who should, it's not always the case, but who should have our best interests at heart, then eventually we'll come to know what happiness is. I was listening to something the other day by His Holiness Bhakti Churu Maharaj discussing the difference between, actually the word happiness, he doesn't like to use the word happiness when it comes to devotional service. He prefers the use of the word bliss or joy. And he spoke about happiness being temporary, based on the mind and the senses and the body, whereas bliss or joy is on the basis of the soul. So sometimes when we want to be happy, it's not really what Krishna wants us to experience. He doesn't want that temporary happiness based on the body and the mind. He wants us to uncover all of that and experience what is real happiness, what is real joy, based on Satchit Ananda. To go through Sat, to go to Chit, to experience what is real joy. So when your temple authorities ask you to do something that you don't like, when my authorities ask me to do something that I don't like, we can, of course, we mustn't give up our individuality. Like Smita Krishna Prabhu said something, we put aside our independence, put aside our, But we must never give up our individuality. That's
Yes.
an important. We're giving up other things, but we never give up our individuality. That's an important thing to retain.
Yes.
We must retain it at all costs. Yeah. Hare
Yeah.
Krishna.
I was also just thinking, like, Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, like, what is at first poison is nectar at the end. So the nectar will come eventually.
That feeling of pleasure we're expecting out of devotional service, sometimes just the thought is perhaps we're expecting it according to our time scale. But when you do it, like we've taken on heavy things, right? We didn't like to do and so on. But then later on, we look back, wow, that's blissful. So we did it. So Krishna will give according to his time. He'll say, I'll give it to you in a moment. But then, his moment, what that is.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki. Oh, she has a question, something.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks for your wonderful class. So I have a question. What do you have to say to people that want to engage in devotional service, but they can't, or they tell themselves, well, I can't do this service because, maybe I'm shy, maybe I'm awkward. What do you have to say to those people? Because, well, for myself, guys, I'm very awkward and shy, and it's like I want to do some of the services, but it's like, oh my gosh, people are going to look at me. What do I do? This, whatever. So.
Well, I'll give you an answer that I give to a lot of things because I feel like it applies to everything. Just read and hear. When you read and hear constantly what is devotional service, it gets you out of that idea of, oh, this is for me, or I'm this way, I can only do things that are according to my nature or that I feel comfortable with doing. Like when we constantly reading and hearing about devotional service, we can use that knowledge to just get us out of our own head. We just become so mental. Like I'm always so mental. But then when I just try to calm down and think, my spiritual master wants me to do devotional service. Let's just do devotional service, and not be so mental about it. So I guess knowledge is the power for everything. Like that will, I mean it in the way like, instead of just thinking, I can't do this because of I'm shy, I'm awkward, I'm this, I'm that. Like when you have that knowledge, knowing that devotional service has eternal benefit, and actually all the things that we do in this material world, it's just like a dreamlike state, but devotional service is eternal. So yeah, that's my thought on that. I hope that answered something. Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Nanta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki.